Hello, this video is a demonstration of the BlueQuill Past plugin. We will learn how to create a backmap or problem, as well as how to build projects within a backmap. We will also cover the different types of learning objects used in creating a project. And we'll learn how to send and retrieve projects to and from the repository. Before we begin our BlueQuill Past demonstration, I will demonstrate the basics of BlueQuill. BlueQuill is based on the concept of learning objects and containers. Just as the past P3 process is nonlinear in its approach to learning, the way you use BlueQuill to build courses with learning objects is nonlinear as well. You build backmaps and projects in BlueQuill using learning objects and containers. Containers hold groups of learning objects. You can add or delete learning objects to containers by dragging and dropping. You can place a learning object anywhere you want to on the page. This large gray box is a container, which represents a project for the past plugin. The colored containers here are the day containers within a project. The colors represent the stage of each container in the design cycle, just like step 1 of the 2-week planner. I can minimize or maximize containers by clicking the upper right-hand corner. Containers can be deleted by dragging the container to the right, where a trash can will appear. When I release the container on the trash can, the container and all its contents are deleted forever. Objects have attributes. When I place a learning object in a container, I need to enter a display name for that object. This is called the display name. When I click on the icon of the object opens to allow me to add more detail. We will cover these details later. If I want to return to the previous page, I can click the browser's back arrow or the large arrows to see my objects. The Design tab is where you will go to create and find your backmaps and projects. Let's get started and build a backmap. To build a backmap, click on the design wrench and click on Create New. Here I will enter the name of my problem. Next, choose the number of projects in your problem or backmap. The default is 4. Then click Create New Backmap. This gives me a backmap that is pre-populated with 4 blank projects. The name of my problem is at the upper left. Each project has 10 day containers in it, just like page 2 of the 2-week planner. You will notice the Download PDFs drop-down arrow at the top left of each project container. You will use this menu later to create the project level forms for delivery in the classroom. To create a project, begin by entering the project title. This is done by clicking on the word project. For this example, I will type, "What is the size of the solar system?" The next step is to add learning objects into the day containers. Let's start by adding a brainstorm activity object. I will drag the object into day 1. The text is already highlighted and is ready for me to type the display name. I will type brainstorm since this is likely the activity for day 1. Then I can click on the icon to open the object and add additional information. First, I will click on the icon on the left to change it. I will select Brainstorm Activity, click Change, click Save, and see the icon change on the object. Whenever I change the icon to Brainstorm Activity or Activity, an orange reminder prompt will appear at the bottom of the screen. This is a reminder for me to add a milestone product object whenever I have added an activity object. The activity objects, along with their products, are the heart of the 2-week planner. The content you enter into the activity object for each day is what builds much of your 2-week planner form. First, I will add the estimated time this activity will take. Next, I will add the activity description. This is done by clicking on the Click to Add Content button on the Teacher Content section. The Teacher Content section is the only area into which I will add content. This activity description is what will appear on page 2 of the 2-week planner for this day. We will show this in more detail later. After I enter my content, I must click Save to save my work. Now that we know the basics of adding a learning object to a project, let's discuss the different types of objects used in building a project. The different types of objects are represented by icons. Activity objects include activity and brainstorm activity. There are 10 assessment icons. There is also a milestone product object to accompany each activity. There are icons for materials, product criteria, final product, and fidelity checklist, as well as a few others to use as visual placeholders. As an example, let's build days 1 and 10. First, I will add a milestone product to accompany the brainstorm activity. Let's call it Brainstorm Ideas. We will see this name later in its place on the 2-week planner. Next, change the icon to the milestone product icon and click Save. Then add a learning object, name it Materials with the display name, and change the icon to the Materials icon. Add your list of materials to the Teacher Content section. Remember to click Save before going back to the project container. If you want to begin a Lewis rubric with students on day 1, you can add an object with the Lewis rubric icon to serve as a visual cue. To add a formative assessment, drag in a learning object, enter the display name, and then change the icon to the type of formative assessment you want to use. The assessment icon you choose here will automatically render a check mark next to the corresponding formative assessment type on page 2 of the snapshot. If I choose the generic assessment icon, the display name I enter into the object display name will render as a custom assessment type on page 2 of the snapshot. The text I enter in the teacher content area of any assessment object will render in the short cycle assessment column on page 2 of the snapshot. This is how I enter assessment questions that will appear on the snapshot. Here I will create an observation formative assessment object for day 1. First I add the learning object, then I add the display name, observation, and then I change the icon to the observation icon. I can then add a basic vocabulary question to the teacher content area. What does the word orbit mean? Now let's add content for day 10. First I will add the daily activity object, which for day 10 is the final product. For the display name, enter evidence of learning, and then the name of the final product. Next, I will add a materials object. I will name it Materials, change the icon, and add my materials list for that day in the teacher content section, and then click Save. Now, let's add the summative assessments to day 10, which are based on reusing the formative assessments from days 1 through 9. To do this, I will use the object shelf. The shelf is an area you use to copy and store objects for future reuse within a project. You can shelve for copying and shelve for linking. Shelving for copying allows you to make a copy of an object. Shelving for linking allows you to make a copy of the object, but the content in the object remains linked to the original object, so that if you make changes to one linked object, it will make changes to all the other linked objects. To use the shelf, drag each formative assessment object from days 1 through 9 to the right margin. While dragging, you will see Shelf for Linking and a chain link icon beneath the trash can. Drop the object on the chain link icon. The object is now copied to the shelf. Next, drag the object from the shelf and into Day 10 container. In this example, any change I make to a Day 10 assessment object will also be changed in the Day 1 assessment object, and vice versa. To add descriptions that will help categorize your projects for searching and reuse in the future, you can click on the Add Description drop-down arrow at the bottom left of the project container. Here we will add the subjects, standards, and grade levels that apply to this project. This project contains science and math content, so I will add science and math subjects. I do this by typing the word, select the subject, and click the plus sign to add it. I can also add them by pressing the Enter key twice. I can remove each subject by clicking the red X. Moving from one box to another is easy when using the Tab key to move right and Shift plus Tab to move left. To add Common Core and Next Generation Science standards, begin typing the standard in the box, select the standard, and add it by clicking the plus sign or the Enter key. For this example, we will add climate change. To add the grade levels associated with the project, type 1 through 12, select the number, and click the plus button or Enter. Adding these descriptions is essential for populating project details on the P3 forms, as well as for future searching and reuse. To make your backmaps and projects available for future reuse, we will send them to the repository. The repository acts as a library of searchable content that can be pulled down for reuse. Projects, day containers, and design challenges can all be stored in the repository. For this example, we will send this project, What is the Size of the Solar System, to the repository. To do this, click and hold on the container when the cursor appears as 4 arrows. Then drag it to the top into the drop zone labeled Drop to Add to Repository. After you do this, you can either add the container to the repository or cancel. We will click Add, and you will see a green message at the bottom of the screen indicating the save to the repository was successful. I can also tell that the container has been added to the repository by the locked icon at the top right of the container. If I want to search the repository for existing projects, day containers, or design challenges to use in my backmap, I click the design wrench at the top and then search to the right of the repository. I can search by title or by the subjects, standards, and grade levels that were originally associated with the saved container. When searching by description, you can search by any one of the 3 or by a combination of them. Containers matching your search results will appear below. Select the container you want to copy from the repository, click on it, then drag and drop it to where you want it in your backmap. Now that the container is in your backmap, you can use it as is or make a copy of it so that you can edit its contents. To copy, click and drag the container to the right where it says Copy and Unlock. This will make a copy of the container to which you can now make changes. Notice that the locked icon is no longer next to it, which indicates it is no longer linked to the repository. Thanks for watching this video demonstration of the BlueQuill Past plugin. Be sure to check out the other videos on how to build a design challenge and the video about the forms and delivery. Thanks.